To the brave of all lands who died believing their sacrifice would save the world from war, only cooperation, truth, and love can ensure lasting peace. These words were inscribed on a wreath laid during a peace vigil on Armistice Day 1935 by Toronto members of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. 75 years later, we have gathered as the political daughters and sons of that peace movement to lay another wreath and to renew the call for peace.
We are to remember that war is horrible, not to be glorified, not to be promoted, not to be seen as a good idea or anything like that. And that is why I think it's essential to remember the horror of war and the lives that it took away. Millions of lives, and yet, I mean, we think in terms of all these huge numbers of people who die in war, and yet each person was an individual person, loved by his family or her friends and so on. Each person very special. And most of them who die in war, certainly the wars that we remember here, particularly the First World War, the Second, the Korean, and now in Afghanistan, most of the people, or a lot of the people who wage war are kids. Young people at the very threshold of opportunity. And we remember the destruction, not only of lives, but of cities, of fields, of agriculture, and life of all kinds, the natural world as well as the human world. And we remember the veterans also. And somebody said this on the radio this morning too. Many veterans, and not just the old white-haired men with kind faces whom we see, but many young veterans who come home with not only injured in body, but also mind and spirit and heart. And we remember that the way that they are treated today, one of the big issues right now is the way veterans are treated as they come home from Afghanistan and others who are still suffering from the trauma of war. So it's important to remember and to take that time. We're also called to reflect, I think, on the futility of war as an instrument of solving conflict. Huge civilian deaths and whole communities wiped out. And now we are becoming even more aware of the increased use of child soldiers in conflicts in different parts of the world. And we remember the true heroism, I think, of Romeo Dallaire, who is devoting his life now, the rest of his life, to trying to get rid of child soldiers. So we need as much money, resources, energy, and imagination, I think, and skill to build peace capabilities as much as we fund war capabilities. And while honoring those we send into conflict zones and then receive home in various states of trauma, we need vigorous reflection on how peace is possible. And we need to reflect, therefore, on the priorities of engagement that we have in a dangerous world. We need to have hope. We are called to have hope. And when we stand on the threshold of despair, which many of us do much of the time, we need to dig deep into our hearts and the best qualities of the human spirit to drink from the well springs of hope which all of us have within our souls. So that the best way to honor the women and the men who die in war is to advocate for new ways of building peace. And that is why this peace pole and the thousands around the world, peace poles all over the world, wherever you go, declare humankind's desire for peace among people, peace in our hearts, and peace with Mother Earth. Project Plowshares invites all of us into creating a culture of peace where war is no longer an option. So today, we remember the fallen, we pray for peace, and that it may be so. Thank you.
We'll now ask that we have 2 minutes of silence during which we can remember, reflect, and hope.
When I think of war and when I think of what it impacted upon me, I realize war is generational. And it's not just something that people go and do, they bring it back. And they will always be affected by war as long as we have the will to go to war. I think the most powerful message that I can say is that if we have developed the will not to kill, that war cannot happen. Wars can only happen as long as we allow them to. And I believe that the real hope for our future lies in our young people, and to hand them the ability and the belief in them that they too will add to a world of hope and a world of incredible diversity based on mutual respect and understanding.
O thou kind Lord, unite all. Let the religions agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family, and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony.
The generals have striven in vain. How well we know the curse of war. May the wise rulers follow it only as a last recourse.
So this is our practice, to see not just what we feel has happened to us, to recognize that we are also the people who do it. And so my challenge is to ask you to think about how you are perpetuating war, how you are a part of that, and to not just discard it, but to acknowledge it and honor it, because we are not just one thing, we are made up of many, many things.
Last night I had the strangest dream. I never